Howdy, 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 everybody. So I will be live here soon with the much anticipated Riley Gaines interview. I did conduct it. I will admit I did conduct it on Tuesday. So I'm playing the video recording version of it, but I'm very excited to be sharing it with all you guys. It's a great interview. And I'm telling you, you're going to love it. So make sure you guys are, if you're on Facebook or Twitter, mainly Facebook. Now, if you're on Facebook, make sure you're following me on YouTube and Rumble, Speechless with Kev Phares, because I've been kicked off of Facebook before for unknown reasons. So make sure you guys are all ready to and raring to go because this is going to be a great interview. Okay, I'm coming on the radio here soon. Hey, Bloomington Normal and the rest of the world. I am your host, Kev Phares, and I hope you're speechless today, everybody, because I have a big interview coming up. But to start the show, everybody, what are we talking about today? We're talking about protecting women's sports with Riley Gaines, who is speechless. We're talking about how Trump was indicted in, once again, the biggest instance of political theater in modern history. And then we got a lot more to cover in this 2-hour show. Speechless. I'm your host, Kev Phares. Welcome back to Speechless. Like I said, I am your host, Kev Phares. And today, last week, I had the opportunity to sit down with a wonderful girl by the name of Riley Gaines. For those of you that do not know, Riley Gaines is a 12-time All-American NCAA swimmer from the University of Kentucky. She has since become a major force in the Protect Women's Sports movement as she tied Leah Thomas, formerly William Thomas, transgender athlete Leah Thomas from Penn State, tied him in 5th place last year at the 2022 NCAA Swimming Championships. But before I get to all that, I want to also give a big shout out. Today's episode is brought to you by Paul Garcia Productions. Out of Normal, Illinois, Paul Garcia Productions creates stunning and effective videos and commercials for Central Illinois businesses. Visit Paul Garcia Productions to learn more and help your business get more business. Okay, so let's start off, everybody. 40 years ago, Title IX was passed to, among other things, afford women the same athletic opportunities as men in school. 40 years ago, feminists praised this decision, as any logical being would, because they were able to see that in the majority of athletics, generally biological men would have an inherent advantage. But that was 40 years ago, when common sense was still common. Where did it go? No more common sense. Today, however, those same feminists, partnering with the alphabet mafia, wish to destroy the very concept of equality and fairness by pushing an agenda that has no basis in objective truth. The idea that men can actually become women and women become men, Title IX and its benefits are quickly disappearing. Men that practically look like Macho Man Randy Savage. You guys know Randy Savage? Yeah, men that practically look like him and were relatively mediocre when competing against biological men. All they have to do, they realize that they can dominate women's sports by simply putting on a sports bra and calling you transphobic if you try to object to it. One of the most hot button issues today is men competing in women's sports. Male MMA fighters bashing the skulls of females. Real women losing scholarships and records to biological men. Most notably, the less than impressive Penn State swimmer William Thomas, now breaking national records and appearing on ESPN documentaries, competing as Leah Thomas. This is an argument I never thought I'd be having. But alas, equality, women's safety, and objective truth are at stake. So here we are. But who am I to be the leader of this discussion? I'm a kind of in shape 5'8" white dude that hasn't played a sport competitively since high school. No, we need other people. And so that's why, like I said, and like a lot of you have been waiting for, I talked to Riley Gaines this last week in a 35-minute interview. I'm going to, I've cut it up a little bit for radio so that we can make sure that the full interview is heard on the radio. If you are interested in seeing the whole video, unedited and uncut, everything like that, that is will be on my YouTube channel, Speeches with Kev Phares, at 4 p.m. after we're done with it here on the radio. So here is that interview. Gonna press play here, just getting it all set up, everybody, so you can watch it on Facebook Live, YouTube, Rumble, everywhere like that. Again, this is Riley Gaines, 12-time All-American NCAA swimmer turned activist. Here she is.
Hey, guys.
Oh, I got it muted there. Just gonna unmute. There we go.
I'm Riley Gaines, and I'm speechless.
My guest today made waves after she tied with Leah Thomas for 5th place in the 200-yard freestyle at the 2022 NCAA championship meet. Since then, she's taken a stand highlighting the need to protect women's sports and has made a name for herself as a leader within the conservative movement. Her advocacy has driven her to make many appearances on national news networks and speak on college campuses. A woman that frankly has more balls than any man I know, Riley Gaines, is here today, everybody, and she is speechless. Riley, thank you so much for joining me.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on.
Appreciate it. Well, honest, I know that you have many other places you could be talking to right now, but I want to make sure that everybody knows just who Riley Gaines is. They should already know, honestly, at this point. But let's dive in right from the beginning. So you started swimming at the age of 4.
I did, yes. And so I graduated when I was 22, and so I dedicated 18 years of my life to my sport. Which of course includes, your sport-specific training, your swimming, but it also includes weightlifting, your diet, your sleep schedule, your physical rehabilitation, not to mention the social sacrifices. You don't get to go to prom. You don't get to come home for Christmas. You don't get to come home when you're in college. You don't get to come home for summer. We were there every single day, training 6 hours a day, swimming 10 miles a day. It's relatively miserable, but of course, the outcomes are always worth it, which is why we do it.
Absolutely. And your outcomes were actually kind of hindered a little bit because men started competing in women's sports. And so when was like the first time you started to notice that people of the opposite gender were competing in the sport, like a man competing in women's sports?
Really the first time this became relevant to me, especially in my world of swimming, we saw a case of this. It was a female, then transitioning, goes by Skylar Baylor, now competes with the men, and this happened at Harvard. And so I saw this, and I, of course, didn't necessarily support it, but I thought, this is a woman competing with the man. There's no threat here. But it never once occurred to me that this could go the other way, and we would be under threat. It just seemed out of realm. And even if it were to happen, I thought there would be governing bodies in place that wouldn't allow it to happen.
You would think, right?
You would think. And so I didn't become aware of this happening the other way around, really, until I was directly impacted by it. Yeah. I became aware of this swimmer, Leah Thomas, about November of my senior year. So November of 2021 was the first time that it was brought to my attention that there was a male competing against the women, especially at a level as high as we were competing.
Yeah, and the culmination of so your senior year of college, the culmination of all that work, 18 years of hard work, comes down to the NCAA championships, in which you were in the same race as Leah Thomas. And as you can see, I'm pulling it up on screen. This is the NCAA, the governing body that's supposed to be protecting you as a swimmer. And you were obviously at this race, but I want to show everybody a little bit of this so that they can kind of understand where you were at physically, so we can talk about where your head was at. So starting off, everybody, here is the beginning of the race in which Leah and Riley actually tied. Here's that.
Take your mark. Ruck will go out for it. Ivy will go out for it. They may be 2 seconds ahead of Leah Thomas in lane number 5. They have the speed to be able to really jump on this first 100. This is going to be a lot tighter of a race.
So from the beginning, the announcers from the NCAA were obviously very enamored with Leah Thomas, despite the fact that she whatever gets further, it stays around 4th, 5th, 6th, almost the entire race. Where was your head at walking up to the block, getting on, take your mark, go? What were you thinking?
Really, first, before anything, it was a distraction. Swimming is, of course, a lot physical. There's a lot of physical that goes into it, but just like a lot of sports, there's a lot of mental that goes into it too. And so I can't even tell you the mental distraction, the mental hindrance. One, the locker room, that played on our mental toll.
I wanted to, that was another, and I want to let you keep going, but that was one thing I wanted to get into at some point. So Leah was in the same locker room as all the other women?
Yes. Yes. We were not forewarned. We were not told. The only time we became aware that we would be sharing a locker room with Thomas was when we had to sit there and watch the 6'4" man disrobe and show his male parts. That's how we became aware that that's the situation we would be in. It felt like betrayal, belittlement. Of course, it's awkward, embarrassing, uncomfortable. Yeah. That to me was really worse than the competition piece.
If anyone else if I were to do something like that, it'd be criminal. I would get arrested on the spot.
Now all you have to do is say you're a woman, and it's not only is it just happening, it's encouraged. It's
exactly.
celebrated.
Exactly. What else was going through your head though, on top of that?
On top of the mental distraction and sense of, wondering of what this outcome would look like, I really felt like I was going into the race with my hands tied behind my back, and not because of the women I was competing against. I knew these women just like myself. We all had a chance to win that national title. We'd all trained. We'd all gone through things that only women go through when it comes to being a woman and what that looks like, especially in regards to training at that level. So that to me, and if I had gotten beaten by them, which I did get beat by some of the girls in that heat, of course, that's not something that frustrates me. I'm proud of those girls. I'm proud of myself for finishing top 5 in the country. Yeah. That's a huge honor. But in regards to competing against a male, of course, you feel like your hands are tied behind your back. You're going into this race with an understanding that there's an inherent unfair advantage, that no matter the training, no matter anything you do, nothing you do will overcome the advantage that Thomas has.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I wanted to get to. So I'm going to play just now the end of the race, because I thought this was interesting as well. Seeing you guys tie, I mean, obviously a lot of people were looking at Miss Ruck, Taylor Ruck, because she won the race. But coming to the end of it, you guys both tied.
Stanford's Taylor Ruck has twice been an NCAA runner-up individually. Ruck has led the entire way, and in the 200-yard freestyle, it's a wire-to-wire win for Taylor Ruck. Isabel Ivy takes.
And then we see, obviously, you in lane 1 and Thomas in lane 5 come both in right there in neck and neck. It was, I believe you guys ended at 1:43.40 was your time, which is incredibly impressive. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was, first of all, watching that again, I remember how badly that hurt. That was not a best time for me. That was, I had added some time, but it definitely was not a best time for Thomas. Thomas added nearly 2 seconds, which in swimming, 2 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, of course, but in swimming, that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so, of course, what's going through my head, I touch the wall, I look at the scoreboard, and I see 5 by my name, indicating I got 5th, which I was honored. I was, that's great. I, of course, knew I could do better, but whatever. It was my last race as a collegiate swimmer. I was glad to be done. And I look at Thomas's name. Actually, before I even looked at my own name, I looked at Thomas's name and I saw the 5. And then I saw my 5 and I looked at my teammates and their jaws were dropped on the side of the pool. And I'm just thinking to myself, there's no way we tied. There's no way. I had already made up my mind that I wasn't going to get on the podium. That was going to be my form of protest. I wanted to swim my race. I didn't think it was fair for me to not swim my last collegiate race ever in terms of boycotting and protesting. So I thought to myself, I won't get on the podium. But now these thoughts are going on in my head, behind the scenes, okay, now if I don't get on the podium, there's not even an empty spot because we have to share the freaking podium.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was thinking. It was this a jumbled mix of emotions, all in a short span of time.
Absolutely. And I mean, it seems incredibly unfair. But one thing I do want to ask is, you mentioned the biological advantage earlier. There are some out there that I've seen that say, well, Leah Thomas came in 5th. She came in 5th. So how could she have a biological advantage? She didn't even win. What would you have to say to people that say things like that?
First of all, I'm not one for speculation. Everything that I say, I try to be well versed on. I try to research. I try to consider different perspectives. But I can wholeheartedly say that Thomas didn't try. This was all part of a bigger picture. Thomas, the first day, wins the national title, beating Olympians, American record holders by body lengths. The second day gets fifth. The third day, in the 100 freestyle, qualifies top 8 in the morning, which I want to reiterate, top 8 in the country is a phenomenal achievement. But that night dives in this final heat. And once you've secured that top 8 spot in the morning, you are finishing top 8 in the nation, regardless of what time you go. Thomas dives in and literally looks like he doesn't know how to swim. Places 8th. This was sending a message that trans women can compete with women and win, but not always dominate.
So do you think, so are you kind of saying that maybe, and obviously it's not confirmed, that Leah kind of threw the race a little bit and waited?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were competing against someone who was actively giving their second best, which again, in a sport where we've dedicated our entire lives, especially those 4 collegiate years, to merely shave 100ths of a second off, merely 100ths. We're going against someone who is actively giving their second best. That's what that is.
That's crazy. How do other swimmers feel in this? Taylor Rock, and I know in that NCAA video that I was showing, Taylor like congratulates Leah afterwards. Did everybody feel supportive of this, or was there or did they feel almost pushed into being supportive, other in fear? So everybody, that is the beginning of my Riley Gaines interview. Everybody be ready for the next part of that. I am streaming live. Not only I am on the radio, and you're probably listening to me there, but I am also on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Rumble. Going to be providing some commentary in the and get into some comments here in the during the breaks. Yes, this interview is not live. Sundays are not easy days to get, especially somebody. So Riley Gaines is a national personality, has been on Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, Sean Hannity, many different national shows. She's currently actually at the Young Women's Leadership Conference in for Turning Point USA in Texas, speaking to a great group of young ladies about these very issues. So if you want that full unedited and unabridged version of the interview, it will be on my YouTube at 4 p.m., but we are still going to keep doing it through after this next break. Do not worry, everybody. We will get more of the Riley Gaines interview when we come back. In the meantime, everybody, I hope you're speechless. We'll be back with more news on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Hey, everybody on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, everywhere, Rumble. I know it might stink that I got to cut it off on there, but we're airing this on the radio. Like I said, the full interview will be posted, obviously with no interruptions, nothing like that, at 4 p.m. on my YouTube channel, Speechless with Kev Phares. Then I'll also make sure that it gets pumped out to Facebook and Twitter and Rumble, everything like that. So you can make sure you see the full interview if you missed even a minute of it. But stick with me through the break, and let's get, I see some comments here and everything I'm getting to. Hey, Raven. Hey, Moe's Gaming. How you guys doing? It's great to see you guys, and I hope a lot of you guys are here. I know that many on YouTube were sent here for Modern Renaissance Man stuff. This is a unconventional show for me, like I said, with a pre-recorded interview. I do like to do, obviously, I would much rather have live stuff done, but this is a national activist that has booked practically to the minute, and for her to be able to take 30-40 minutes out of her day on last Tuesday, it was an amazing experience. And she is, I will tell you, she's one of the most down-to-earth people that I've ever met. I got to be honest, one of the most down-to-earth people I've ever met. She is, like I said, in a national spotlight. People pay money to go see her speak places, and she would still take the time to talk to me. So do not worry. We will be back with more of that on after this break on the radio. If you have questions, comments, concerns, always make sure you are putting them into the comment section and I will get to them. It's crazy to hear about. I think a big one was the fact that Leah William Thomas used the same locker room as all these girls, and they were just kind of expected to go along with it. You know, how crazy is that? They're just expected to go along with it. So I think we need this is an interesting take. I think we need to stop referring to the individual who claims to be Leah Thomas and call him William Thomas. I agree. I go back and forth with Leah, William, whatever, because I don't really care. It's not about the name to me. It's about the assault that we have on, like I said at the beginning, Title IX, on women's sports, on the entire idea of gender and objective truth, period. That's what it's all about. My good friend, Mike Haig. I'm live for once. Yes, you are catching me live. Thanks, Mike. Mike is a amazing farmer. I'm sure he's really happy today. All of our farmers in Illinois are probably pretty happy today because it's raining. And we have had a very dry season right now in Illinois. And so the rain is making it a billion times better because it's been so dry. But everybody, we will be back soon with more of the Leah Thomas interview for the next segment. That'll be in about 10 to 15 seconds here. I got to intro it again on the radio. This is how radio works. You guys are getting an insight on how it is in a radio station because people are only listening to the radio for as long as they're in their car for 10, 12 minutes as they're driving to something. So I'm coming back here now live. Hey, Bloomington Normal. Welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I am your host, Kev, and you guys probably knew I've been posting it all over Facebook, making sure everybody knows that I had the chance to sit down with 12-time All-American NCAA swimmer Riley Gaines, who faced off against a biological man in the 2022 NCAA swimming championships for the 200 freestyle. They actually tied, got the exact same time for 5th place in that race. And so I sat down with her for over 35 minutes last Tuesday talking to her. I'm streaming it live. The full interview, unedited, fully unabridged, everything like that will be posted onto my YouTube channel, Speechless with Kev Phares, last name Phares. You can go like, subscribe, and see that full interview at 4 p.m. unabridged. But I am going to keep playing it for you here on the radio. Again, Riley Gaines, 12-time All-American swimmer, incredibly smart, down-to-earth girl, sat down with me to talk. I was just her and I were talking about, obviously, Leah Thomas, William Thomas, the biological male who went against her. Then she also gets into her activism and her endorsement of Ron DeSantis for president. So we're going to keep going with that interview right now. So are you kind of saying that maybe, and obviously it's not confirmed, that Leah kind of threw the race a little bit and waited?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were competing against someone who was actively giving their second best, which again, in the sport where we've dedicated our entire lives, especially those 4 collegiate years, to merely shave 1/100th of a second off, merely 1/100th. We're going against someone who is actively giving their second best. That's what that is.
That's crazy. How do other swimmers feel in this? Taylor Rock, and I know in that NCAA video that I was showing, Taylor congratulates Leah afterwards. Did everybody feel supportive of this, or was there or did they feel almost pushed into being supportive, in fears that they'd be called transphobic or anything like that?
Yeah, no, it's that. Of course, I can't speak for every single person, but I know a lot of girls in that heat who I have had conversations with feel the exact same way I do. I won't say their names because it's not my place to out them in that way, but the overwhelming majority of girls at that competition, the overwhelming majority of people in this country, even the overwhelming majority of the Democratic Party, but in regards to that competition, the overwhelming majority of us knew that was wrong. We knew that we shouldn't have to share that locker room with the man. We knew the silencing that we were facing was wrong. But again, these girls were scared of the retaliation. They were fearful. There was actually an interview just released yesterday. Her name is Paula Scanlon with Matt Walsh. I highly encourage everyone to go listen to it because she does a good job depicting of what these universities and these athletic departments and these institutions are doing to really silence these girls.
Yeah, I had a chance actually to watch that, and I was wondering, because she implicates you. Well, she basically thanks you in that video, saying that you were part of her inspiration for wanting to come forward. Obviously, she was mentioned anonymously, or was interviewed anonymously for Matt Walsh's highly successful "What Is a Woman." How does it feel to know that there are other people like Paula coming out and saying that you were an inspiration for them?
This is never something I could have wanted for myself. This is never something that I could have been equipped for. This is something that I was entirely thrusted into.
Mhm.
And so to be a voice.
Very humbling words from Riley Gaines. We will get back to more of that. Obviously, we are live here on Cities 92.9. So I am coming in and interrupting the interview, but we will get to the full interview. And if you are interested in watching it, uncut, unabridged at 4 p.m. today, it will be on my YouTube channel, Speechless with Kev Phares. Totally no, I'm not cutting in at all during that one, but I do appreciate everybody who is tuning in on the radio and on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, everything like that. I'm going to get to some comments during the break here, but we will be right back to hear just more how Riley Gaines is dealing with being thrust into the spotlight as an activist against biological men in women's sports. Yep, we will get to all of that and more. We will be right back with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Okie dokie, everybody. Let's get to some more comments here. Thank you guys again for tuning in. I know it kind of stinks that I got to cut in and everything, but that's how live radio works. And I wanted to make sure that everybody, as many people as possible, could see and hear. This entire interview. Like, everything she has to say is so important. And I said it at the intro of this entire show. I said, I am not like I am an activist, right? I could talk about all these issues. But who am I to lead a conversation entirely about protecting women's sports? Who am I to do that? Like I said, I'm a 5'8", a little chubby. Like I'm okay. I'm kind of in shape. White guy that hasn't played a sport in a long time. I dedicated a lot of time to athletics, but not nearly as much as Riley did. And her last race of her life was hindered because a biological man was competing against her and several other women in their sport that they've worked so hard for. I see Pam. Thank you so much. Loved the shirt. Yeah, Jesus is King. Absolutely. I have this one on today. Yep. Anti-Socialism Social Club. I love that one. Let's get to, I saw this. One of our hecklers said something about there aren't any biological men competing in women's sports. There aren't any biological men competing in women's sports. Yes, there are. There are. William Thomas is a biological man. Even people that have that agree with the trans ideology, some of them, not all of them. Some of them are too far gone. But even some people that agree with that ideology even recognize that there is such thing as biological sex. That there are biological men. Wake up. Wake up, heckler. Jeez. But yes, thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back with some more of that interview coming up here soon. We're only just getting started too. We're just getting started with that. I still got 20 more minutes in that interview. So I think we're going to get to a lot of it in the next big segment. And then we'll have, in the second hour, I will be talking about the Trump indictment a little bit. And maybe bringing on some guests too. If anybody's interested, I can maybe do that in the second hour, talk a little bit more about it. But thank you guys always for tuning in. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. You guys are the best. I'm so thankful to have such amazing people behind me. I got a text today from a good friend, my buddy Brett, who does a lot of work in activism and political activism too. And he said he was praying for me today because he knew that this was a pretty darn big interview to have. And I was really excited about it. And it's because the only way that I can do the things that I do and talk like this and go to different events and like the DeSantis people that I went and talked to that one time, like the only way that I can do things like that is by having such a strong support base of amazing people that are so kind. And I thank each and every one of you guys for any and all of your support that you could possibly give. And it's definitely appreciated when it's in the form of like, subscribe, comment, share, everything like that. So yeah. And you're right, Raven. We are going to come back here soon. You're right. That person was trying to get a response from me. But to an extent, I'm going to give it to them because we need to tell people why they are wrong. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to tell people why they are wrong because I get these trolls and they oftentimes just say, you're wrong, you're an idiot, you're transphobe, everything under the sun like that. I think that we need to tell people why they are wrong. It is so important because if I just come on here and I say, screw the trolls, you're wrong, then who gets anything out of that? They might still not get anything out of me telling them why they are wrong. But it is so important that we do that. Like so I'm not going to respond if they just come on here and call me a transphobe. No, I'm not going to do it. But if they come on and say and make some kind of an argument, I'll respond to the argument. And this troll made the argument that there are no biological men and women's sports. Well, you're just blind then. Because a lot of people understand the common sense that there are biological men. Even if you identify as a woman, you can still be a biological man. You are a biological man. But even people that believe in the whole gender ideology understand biological sex. Just be smart. Think a little bit more. We're about to come back here. I'm going to intro the interview again for everybody on the radio, and then we'll get right back into it. Hey, and welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9. I am your host, Kev Phares, and thank you guys so much for joining me. If you're listening on the radio, you could be on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble. Let's get ready to rumble. Yes, I am on Rumble. Sorry if that just blew out your speakers in your car, but I am on Rumble too. If you want to be watching me there, you can interact with me. I can interact with you in terms of the comments section. You can always text or call in at 309-451-9299. But let's get back into it. What I've been talking about this hour and what I've had is this last week, I had an opportunity to talk with the former collegiate swimmer, NCAA, amazing swimmer, Riley Gaines, who swam in the 200-yard freestyle against biological male William Thomas. Changed in the same locker room as the women. And they were forced to accept it by risk of being called transphobic and all that kind of crap. And so I sat down with her. I talked about that. I talked about her activism, and I talked with her about her Ron DeSantis endorsement. We're going to keep going with that interview for the rest of this hour. If you want to watch the whole thing unedited, unabridged, everything like that, go onto my YouTube channel, Speechless with Kev Phares. It will be there at 4 p.m. Everybody, let's keep going with this interview.
Wanted for myself. This is never something that I could have been equipped for. This is something that I was entirely thrusted into. Mm-hmm. And so to be a voice of reason for others, that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm continuing to do this. It would be really easy for me to essentially just ride off into the sunset, continue on with the plans that I thought I had pursuing endodontics, which is like root canals. That's what I thought my life was going to look like. Yeah. And it would be really easy for me to do that. But to know that my voice and my courage, I hate to say that this even takes courage, but I understand that it does. Mm-hmm. That my courage and my voice helped Paula find her courage and her voice. It alerts me that courage begets courage, and it's contagious. And I'm certain, I'm confident that more and more women will start speaking about this, using their platforms to talk about this and how it's wrong. That being said, I feel like this conversation very quickly gets centered around women and girls, but men are not clear here either. We need men. We need men to use their voice. We need men with platforms, male athletes, coaches, whatever that looks like, to be willing to boycott, to speak on this as well. We need everyone. Men, women, coaches, medical professionals, parents, all of it.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I want to get into a lot more of that activism, but I did have one more question regarding Leah Thomas. And this is a big one that a lot of people have talked to me about. And I feel like a lot of people are skeptical of it. Do you actually think that Leah Thomas believes he is a woman? Or do you think he's using womanhood as a costume to get attention and success? I know you can't get into his mind necessarily, but from a personal standpoint, what do you think?
I definitely think there's some delusion there. But in regards to being gender dysphoric, I've really tried to understand this. Obviously, I'm not gender dysphoric. I know I'm a woman. So this is not something I had a great understanding of what it meant to have this, to feel this. And so I've talked with many trans identifying individuals and asked what gender dysphoria is really like. And they all have told me that in regards to a locker room and undressing, being gender dysphoric, you would never undress in front of in a room full of the opposite sex. If you're truly dysphoric about your gender and what, you possess, You would never do that. It's also been confirmed since this meet that Thomas has been engaging in social media posts that claim he is an AGP, which means autogynephiliac, which means you're just sexually aroused as dressing as a woman. And that's a transvestite or cross-dresser. That's not someone who is truly transgender. Yet we were forced to participate in this fetish. That's ultimately what I think this is. Again, I can't get in his brain. I can't understand fully, but based off of the conversations that I've had and the posts and the comments and the likes that Thomas has engaged in, I think there's some speculation to be had.
Absolutely. Well, transitioning from that now onto like the activism portion of your life, because this, like you said, this isn't something you had planned for. It was something you probably never imagined to be a part of. But you now have become, I would say, probably the leading activist in terms of protecting women's sports. And a common question, Matt Walsh got this on Dr. Phil about a year ago, and I think it's really simple, but I love to hear what people have to say. Why do you care? Why does this matter to you?
Why it matters to me, several reasons. The biggest, though, is really not protecting women's sports. It's not really the freedom of speech. Of course, those are pieces of it. But what this is they're asking us to deny objective truth. They're asking us to deny biological reality. They're asking us to deny biblical truth. And that's really chilling to think about. It's as if we're living in this George Orwell dystopian novel. Where they're trying to make us say 2 + 2 is 5, and people are saying it. And if you don't, then you're punished. It's this concept of groupthink, and we're actively leading ourselves in that direction. That's what our administration and our universities and our institutions and the people who lead this country, that's what they want to instill. They want to control our thoughts. They want to control our feelings. They want to control what we say. And that's really scary. You can open any history book and see how that turns out for any other civilization, and it's not pretty. And so I think that, to me, is a big underlying problem of denying objective truth. 2, why this matters to me is I see the value in sports and women playing sports. I saw the benefits that I reaped. I have a little sister, and she's probably all my family. My dad, he played in the NFL. My mom, she played softball. All my family were athletes, and my little sister's probably the best athlete of us all. I'm never going to admit that to her, but I can't imagine her not having the opportunities that I had. And of course, fighting for those past women who fought for Title IX, who fought for me. It only feels right that I fight back for them. In their same lifetime, they saw the benefits of Title IX, and now they're seeing that being taken away.
Absolutely.
And the third thing of why I care, I'll be brief, is being a Christian, I see this as spiritual warfare. And I see, God put us on this planet to communicate his message. And I think that's crucial to do.
I love hearing that, especially when it comes to the faith piece of it. When it comes to your activism now, and I love hearing all of the reasons why you're doing it, but you've now been able to go on to, like I said in the introduction, many different news platforms. You've even been speaking on college campuses. Most recently, I know I heard of multiple news stories, one in Buffalo, New York, in which a protester was arrested for apparent harassment. There was also one that went viral just before that of when you were at San Francisco State University. I have that video of apparently you being held hostage. I want to play that for everybody, and then I'd love to hear kind of a play-by-play of what happened, if that's okay.
And what we're hoping to do is to keep things peaceful and
make her lose her flight
and move forward. Okay. Tell her to pay us. Tell her to pay us, and then she can go. $10 each. Because you might get paid for this shit, so we can get paid for it too.
On a public campus that we attend.
So what's the end goal here? We're cooperating, so what's next?
So they need to do their job. We created a path. It's here.
I can't speak to all of you when we're over talking to each other. We're not going to hear each other.
Don't let her hold.
They know. You don't have to use. There's a difference.
So they end up, as you know, they end up getting everybody kind of quieted down, but they're saying that they don't want to let you come home and say that they want to charge them money to allow you out. What was going on here?
First of all, you only see a little clip of this. I
Mhm.
endured this for over 3.5 hours of these
Insane.
protesters outside this room yelling the most hateful, awful, vengeful, violent, terrible things at myself and the officers. They were negotiating money. There were several instances when I could hear them outside the room saying, if you want to make it home safely to see your family again, you have to pay us. It's only fair. You got paid to be here. I think they were under the assumption that the university paid me to be there, which is not true. The university would have paid me probably to not be there. So I think they were under this assumption that I was getting paid. And they said, if you're getting paid to be here, you have to pay us to leave. And the officers in the room, of course, I respect all law enforcement, but these officers did nothing. There has been no action since. There has been no expulsions. There has been no repercussions for anyone involved. Actually, the university doubled down on this stance. Their vice president of student affairs, Dr. Jamila Moore, sent an email out to their student body saying she was so proud. I applaud the bravery of our students who acted so peacefully and protested the personally abhorrent person such as Riley Gaines, who only spreads violence.
Oh my God.
Yes, it was crazy. And to read that, not once did this email say they uphold freedom of speech. Not once did they say they condemn violence against women. That shows you the true direction in which universities and college campuses are going.
And that's also California for you too. California over there, California, whatever. But I would say honestly, the same thing would probably not the exact same thing, but something similar would happen if you came to Illinois State, where I'm at. So you're right. It is an infection of our college campuses, and a lot of people want to speak out in a similar way that you do, but they fear that retribution. So what do you have to say to those that are sitting at home right now, possibly watching, listening to this interview? And they want to fight just as much, but don't know how to, and are also might lack that courage.
My number one advice is to be bold. I know it can be scary. It is scary, but I have to put it into perspective for myself. Of course, the cancel culture we live in and being labeled any kind of name is scary, but what's scarier is not standing for the truth. That's scarier to me.
Mm-hmm.
I will say really quickly, there's just a few moments ago, I got off a call with this girl from Illinois, and she called me and she said, I swim for this team. We practice at the YMCA, and we've had this man keep coming into our locker room. And so I went to my coach about it, and he made us think he was doing something to fix the problem. And so, we continued going to the locker room, and every day it kept happening. And so because the coach wasn't really doing anything, she said, myself and my teammates, we got together, we made posters, and these posters just said simple things, protect women's spaces, simple things, and they put them up in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
She said the next day she went back to practice. Her coach pulled them all out of the water and said, all the girls, and said, who put those posters in the locker room? And the girl stepped forward and she said, I was a part of it. And he kicked her off the team. And she now is not allowed to compete on that team anymore for wanting to uphold. And again, this girl she's 14 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And right there in Illinois. And I wanted to say that to give you perspective. And she just called me. And this happens all the time
This is something we are going to keep covering on Cities 92.9, a story that I'm still looking more into. A 14-year-old girl in Illinois kicked off her swim team because she, at her YMCA, put up posters that wanted to protect women's spaces because a biological man, was changing in their locker room during their swim practices. I cannot believe it. This is my interview with Riley Gaines, everybody, former NCAA champion swimmer who tied Leah Thomas for the 200-yard freestyle back at the NCAA championships in 2022. Everybody, we're going to keep going with this interview for the rest of the hour. Do not worry. You can watch the full unedited, unabridged video of this interview on my YouTube channel at Speechless with Kev Phares. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will be right back with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington's Normal. Hey, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Rumble, wherever. I cannot believe the things that Riley Gaines was telling me about this thing in Illinois. Again, it's a story, a touchy story that I'm still covering and trying to learn a little bit more about. I've been talking with Riley post-interview about possibly breaking this story further and getting everything onto record as to what happened at this Illinois YMCA. There is more to cover with Riley, but in the meantime, I am here and I'm here to talk to you guys a little bit more about some of the things that have been discussed. I'm gonna scroll back that interview so we can get some people, so we can make sure anybody listening on the radio is all caught up. We got 12 more minutes in this interview. It's probably going to take us into the next hour. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Another thing I wanted to share too real quick was she talked a little bit about her time at the San Francisco State University. And I wanted to bring up the actual statement that was released that actually cited. This is the statement from San Francisco State after Riley Gaines went to their campus, in which the president of the university actually sided with the protesters and everything. So today, San Francisco State finds itself again in the center of a national discussion regarding freedom of speech and expression. Let me begin by saying the trans community is welcome and belongs at SFSU. Further, our community fiercely believes in unity, connection, care, and compassion, and we value different ideas even when they are not our own. Oh, you value them? Okay, well, the San Francisco State is regularly noted as one of the most diverse campuses across the United States. This is what makes us Gators, and this is what makes us great. Diversity promotes critical discussions, new understandings, and enriches the academic experience, but we may also find ourselves exposed to divergent views, and even views we find personally abhorrent. So believing men should not be in women's sports is alluded to as being personally abhorrent. Okay. These encounters have sometimes led to discord, anger, confrontation, and fear. We must meet this moment and unite with a shared value of learning. Thank you to our students who participated peacefully in Thursday's evening's event. It took tremendous bravery to stand in a challenging space. I am proud of the moments where we listed and asked insightful questions. I am also proud of the moments when our students demonstrated the value of free speech and the right to protest peacefully. That's the only free speech she cared about that she mentions, is the protests for it. She doesn't actually talk about the free speech of talking about the men shouldn't be in women's sports. I digress. These issues do not go away, and these values are very much at our core. This feels difficult because it is difficult as you reflect, process, and begin to heal. Because somebody's speaking on something that you disagree with, you need to heal from that. Please remember that there are people, resources, and services available and ready to receive our Gator community, including faculty, staff members, coaches, mentors here to support you. And then they put all these resources there as well. Yes. It is so bad that somebody decided to share an opinion that differs from your own. So abhorrent. So awful. So terrible. What is wrong with these people? Let's go to some comments here. Awesome. Thank you, Modern Renaissance Man, for pushing this video and this interview out. Everybody, remember at 4 p.m., so 7 minutes from now, the full, unabridged, unedited interview will be on my YouTube channel with Riley Gaines, the former NCAA championship swimmer. If you've been watching so far, amazing interview. Very articulate, as my good friend Pam on Facebook said. She's very articulate, and she talked about being in spiritual warfare. Yes, please stay tuned. She does talk a little bit more about her faith as it relates to swimming and her activism and everything. So I think it's really important to talk about that. And I see that you're asking me to pin some. I can't pin stuff necessarily from where I'm at right now. We're about to come back live on the radio, but I'll try to figure it out because I'm on StreamYard. I don't have my YouTube live open because I'm making sure that everybody can see this on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, everywhere. But we're coming back live now. And we are back with Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'm your host, Kev Phares, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. Everything that we've been going through this last hour has been my interview with Riley Gaines, the former NCAA champion, 12-time All-American swimmer who had to swim against a biological man William Thomas, most commonly referred to as Leah Thomas in the public sphere, transgender swimmer who seems to think that there is no biological advantage because he's a biological man. There's no biological advantage of a transgender athlete in women's sports, which we all know is absolute crap. But Riley keeps talking about her activism and everything that she's been going through. I'm going to keep playing this interview. It probably will carry on a little bit into the second hour. Keep watching, everybody. This interview is amazing. And here is more of that.
NCAA, we've had this man keep coming into our locker room. And so I went to my coach about it. And he made us think he was doing something to fix the problem. And so, we continued going to the locker room, and every day it kept happening. And so because the coach wasn't really doing anything, she said, myself and my teammates, we got together, we made posters. And these posters just said simple things, protect women's spaces, simple things. And they put them up in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
She said the next day she went back to practice. Her coach pulled them all out of the water and said, all the girls, and said, who put those posters in the locker room? And the girl stepped forward and she said, I was a part of it. And he kicked her off the team. And she now is not allowed to compete on that team anymore for wanting to uphold. And again, this girl she's 14 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And right there in Illinois. And I wanted to say that to give you perspective. And she just called me. And this happens all the time where I'm getting calls like this. And so again, my advice, be bold, be like that girl from Illinois. Make noise, ruffle feathers, step on toes. And I know, especially as Christians, we want to be peacemakers. We want to respond with empathy and have compassion. Of course we do. And that's what our God tells us to do. But he also hates sin. And what's happening right now is really, it's an abomination.
Mm-hmm.
And it's our job to call out something when it's unjust. And what's happening is entirely unjust to women. Be bold, know how your state stands too. I think that's really important. There have been 22 states thus far that have passed some sort of fairness in women's sports bill. Of course, that means the majority of states have not. Know where your state stands, contact your legislator or your state senator, and let them know how you feel. Let them know that this is important to you, their constituents. And my message to parents is to defend your daughters and to teach your sons masculinity. There's this saying, and it's hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. And it's the cycle, and it's actually pretty interesting. You can look and see how that's played out throughout history. And I think we're in this time period of weak men creating hard times, which we can only hope that means hard times create strong men, but we need parents to teach masculinity again.
We can only hope. You're right. And speaking of strong men, switching gears a lot, but you recently, it was big news. You endorsed Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, for president for 2024. This is obviously a divisive topic, even among just the right. And not that you're shy from divisive topics by any means, but can you tell me a little bit more about what led to that decision to endorse Governor Ron DeSantis?
Absolutely. It took a lot of thinking. It took a lot of praying. Did I want to involve myself in this capacity? I knew what it meant. I knew, especially in a primary as heated as this one, where there's so much at stake because really our country is on the line. I knew what this meant, but ultimately I came to the conclusion that this is something that I'm passionate about. This is something that I care about. Therefore, I want to do everything in my power to make sure we get the person in office, especially in regards to these cultural issues that are plaguing our country. We need a person in office who will draw the line and who will say enough is enough. That's the leadership we need, especially, again, in comparison to what we have now, who can't even define what a woman is. Thinking that, understanding that, and seeing the success that Governor DeSantis has had in Florida surrounding these issues, whether that be within the education system, whether that be, of course, in regards to women's sports, whatever that looks like, he has said enough is enough. And he's handled it with grace. He's handled it with such success, and everyone in his state values him for it. I shouldn't say everyone, majority of his state values him for that. And people are flocking to Florida.
People are flocking to Florida. And everybody, we are coming up against the end of the first hour of the show. In the next hour, as we finish up the Riley Gaines interview that I had earlier this week, she will answer the question, why did she not endorse Trump? Why was it DeSantis over Trump? She answers that question and more in the next hour of Speechless. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in on the radio. You could also be watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, and you'll be hearing me. I give a little bit more commentary on this and some other stories in the next hour. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be right back with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Okay, guys, so just now is when this interview actually went live. If you want to go watch the whole thing, I'll post the link right here. And thank you for anybody's watching that's watching on Modern Renaissance Man's channel too. I mean, thank you so much. What would really be appreciated if you guys could go and like, subscribe, and share to Speechless with Kev Phares, my channel. I'll make sure I put my banner back up at the top there. But I'd really appreciate it because we got to keep supporting all these kinds of things. But we will be back in the next hour with the rest of that interview and some more commentary. Like I said, I'm going to put in now the comment section, the link to the full interview if you'd like to go watch that. Obviously, I'd love if you guys could stay in here, but I get it. It's a great interview, and I wanted to put it up as soon as possible, pretty much as soon as most of it was aired on this live stream. So here is full interview. Here's that right there. Now I'll get to some comments. I got kind of a longer break here, probably about 5-6 minutes. And so here's one thing I wanted to address. So I will give DeSantis credit. He did sign into laws, some anti-trans bills. So the thing is don't even call it anti-trans because that's what the left wants you to do. Because when it sounds like you're against something, then it sounds negative, right? It's saying you're anti something sounds negative. That's why a lot of when you're pro-life, you try to frame the other side as anti-life, or if you're pro-choice, you try to frame the other side as anti-choice because it sounds negative. So the way I like to put it, because it's true, is it's not anti-trans. I'm not against trans people. I'm not against trans people whatsoever. I'm supportive of biological women. I'm supportive of children, and I'm supportive of truth. So I'm not anti-trans. I'm not transphobic. I'm not afraid of trans people. I think everybody that's suffering from gender dysphoria needs to be supported, and supporting them is not, and I've said this a lot of times, supporting them is not affirming their gender dysphoria. So, but yes, DeSantis has done that. He's done a great job with it. This is a big point. I'm old, and all of these men in this country will have to start taking care of our daughters. Time to stand in front of the blocks, in front of the doors. No more nonsense. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so a lot of people, I get the question, what can I do? How can I support myself? How can I support people like Riley? How can people support you? And the biggest thing is make sure we're instilling these values back into our society. And that comes a lot with being a good parent and being a parent, right? I watched this movie last week, and this is like super off topic. It's a movie from the early 2000s called Idiocracy. It's a comedy movie, kind of dumb, cheaply made. It's called Idiocracy, and the premise of it is like kind of true. It's this whole idea, and Riley talks about it a little bit later too. It's this whole quote, you guys probably heard it, like, strong men create easy times create weak men create strong times, or weak men create hard times create strong men. It's a circle, right? Well, the whole idea of Idiocracy is that life just gets, because of the advancements in technologies and everything, life just gets easier and easier and easier. And then eventually we're just run by idiots. Everybody in the world is an idiot. And this guy who was a lackluster, mediocre individual in like the early 2000s goes and he goes into 500 years in the future, and everybody is just an absolute idiot. They are obsessed with pornography and fart jokes and just dumb stuff. And it feels like we're almost starting to live in that society today because we don't have to think anymore. You can just use AI to do everything if you want. I mean, ChatGPT practically can do anything for you. And yeah, maybe it's not perfect yet, but like if they can do that now, it's going to work eventually to where you never even really have to think. And it's all about control. That's really what it is. It's all about control. An uneducated populace is an easily controllable populace. And so let's create technology that makes it so you don't even have to have any kind of education. Something else will do everything for you. It's like Wall-E too. Wall-E's another great kind of example of that. You got all these fat people in their chairs obsessed with media and everything. This is a great point. Never thought that film would become a documentary. Absolutely. We are starting to become that, to become a world. And if you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. I think it's on like Amazon Prime. You can watch it there. So it is all about control. Absolutely, Pam. And thank you guys again so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Make sure you subscribe and like on YouTube. Watch my stuff on YouTube if you want to obviously support the channel and everything. I really do appreciate that. It's first few months. I think I'm almost at 90 days since I started streaming and stuff, and already have almost 500 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. I really in the most genuine way I can. I want to thank each and every one of you guys who have consistently supported me. You're the best. And if you're watching on Facebook, thank you for supporting myself, likely the station too. Cities 92.9 is a bastion for conservative thought in central Illinois, and in a state where conservative thought is all but banned. It's because of people like you, because of you guys supporting us, that we've been able to that we can still have free speech in Illinois. So thank you very much. I'm looking at some of these comments here. We will be coming back, like I said earlier, we'll be coming back with the rest of the Riley Gaines interview in the next, I got it, about a minute and a half, or less than a minute, actually, until we come back, and we'll be finishing up that interview, getting to some commentary about it, and then I got some other things to talk about, too, so. So thank you guys so much. If you're on Modern Renaissance Man's channel watching me right now, thank you. Please, please, please like, subscribe, and share on my channel too. I'd really appreciate that, because obviously we want to make sure that as many conservative voices can get uplifted. And so that's what I always try to do. And that's why I brought Riley Gaines on. But we are back with my show. So we're going to finish up this interview. Hey, Bloomington Normal. Welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, but not just on Cities 92.9 and in Bloomington Normal, but we're also all over the country in a way, because we're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Rumble. Yes, we are all over the place, everybody. I'm your host, Kev Phares, and yes, I am always speechless. I'm speechless this week because I was able to get an interview with a national name, Riley Gaines. For those of you that might not know who Riley is, you really should. She is an activist, but never wanted to be. Originally, she was going to be performing like root canals, doing some kind of dental surgery stuff, but she got thrust into the spotlight when she tied biological male Leah Thomas in the 200-yard freestyle in the 2022 NCAA Swimming Championships. Yes, she tied exact same time, and she started speaking out about why it's such a problem that biological men are speaking out in women's sports. And so in my interview with her, which I've been playing over the last hour, we talked about her time as a swimmer, the importance of having separate sports for biological men and women. We talked about her activism and how she was actually held hostage by protesters at a speech that she was giving at San Francisco State University. It's crazy, the world we are living in. And in the most recent segment that I was playing, she talked with me about her endorsement of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for president. And I know our listeners might be split on this issue. Some believe that Ron DeSantis is the guy. Others believe he's not. Some people believe, or somewhere in the middle. Some people believe Trump is the only way to go. All those viewpoints are valid, and that's what we're here to talk about on Cities 92.9. But Riley Gaines endorsed Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and so I talked with her a little bit more about that decision. And so here is the rest of my interview with her, talking about her endorsement of Governor Ron DeSantis, as well as a few other hot topics. Here is that.
Yeah. The economy is booming. There's all kinds of different reasons why people are moving to Florida. Seeing that, again, the leadership that he's possessed in regards to these cultural issues, that is why I think Ron DeSantis will make a phenomenal president in 2024.
Well, and I've been honest on this show before multiple times that I'm leaning much towards Ron DeSantis as well for 2024. But there are obviously a ton of candidates for the Republican nomination. It's a crowded race. We just saw recently Chris Christie, Mike Pence have entered the race, but it really seems like it's boiling down to two candidates, and that's obviously Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. Tell me, if you can, a little bit more about why DeSantis over Donald Trump.
One, in terms of how each composes themselves, I think it's relatively easy to understand. And look, I truly, I think Trump's policies, this isn't to bash Trump. It's to just say that DeSantis has the leadership to get things done. He's young, he's ambitious, he's the best governor in modern history. And I think we can all agree on that. We need him in a position where he can really expand his territory at the federal level. This is something that the country needs to feel and needs to see and needs to experience. This type of leadership, this type of winning, this type of success among these issues. This breakdown of family that we're seeing, the breakdown of faith and the breakdown of freedoms, it really is criminal. And we need someone who's going to uphold those values. And I think Ron DeSantis will.
Well, that I think that's honestly probably one of the best defenses of Ron over Trump that I've ever heard. I have just a few more questions, kind of off topic, but I just think that they're really relevant today. The first being, many corporations have faced backlash recently for their support of the transgender ideology. Bud Light, obviously, has Dylan Mulvaney as an influencer. Target had swimsuits that I'm sure would be great for your former opponent, Leah Thomas, the tuck-friendly swimsuits. What do you think should be done about companies like this going woke?
I'm glad that they're getting boycotted. I'm truly surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Bud Light thing, it is what pushed people over that edge. They missed their mark so bad on their target audience. I have never seen a trans identifying individual drink a Bud Light, and so to go with that campaign, it was stupid. And that's why they're in the position they're in. And these companies, they don't follow blue or red, they follow green. That's what they follow. Bud Light's seen the atrocity that this has caused and the repercussions that they have faced monetarily in terms of, or I guess fiscally. Now they're trying to come out with campaigns. You know, they have this camo beer can, and they have all of these commercials with these burly men on motorcycles, but they're too far gone. That's not an apology. And that's what we need. We need accountability and we need an apology. I think that's reasonable. I think that's understandable. What Bud Light did, what Target is doing, what Tampax, Ulta, I mean, the list goes on at this point. Hershey's, I mean, really, I have a list on my phone of companies I won't buy from again.
Yeah.
What they're doing is a mockery. It really is. And attacking children, which Target is doing, that's just perverse and sick. That's so twisted to put this kind of artwork and this kind of sayings and you know, depictions on infant clothing. That shows me that this is a spiritual battle. When you're trying to attack children and going for that vulnerable population, you know, there's an ulterior motive.
Absolutely. Just a few more. You touched on your faith a little bit earlier. I just want, in terms of your lifelong swimming, your activism now, what role has faith played in every sector of your life?
It's always been a huge piece of my life. It really has. I'm very fortunate to have a family that raised me to be strong in my faith. To have a strong family foundation in general is such a blessing. But this past year, really, I've been so spiritually awakened. Just seeing how evidently our God works and how he moves and how he puts people in places. That being said, how clearly his opposition works. Mm-hmm. And how Satan moves through people and how he puts people in places and the deception that he carries, whether that's in the media, whether that's in Hollywood and our celebrities, which we see a lot of, in education and corporations. There's so many places where Satan is alive, and it's obvious. And so my faith has been a big push for me as to why I continue moving forward. In Mark and Luke, it says it's not the healthy who need the doctor, it's the sick. And I constantly keep that verse in my head as to why I'm doing what I'm doing. So it's been a very big portion of my life, and it's what I lean on pretty heavily.
It's really interesting that you bring up that phrase in Mark and Luke, because my final question that I had was, do you have a personal philosophy that you live by, a motto or something like that? Would it be that, or is there something else that you're consistently thinking of?
Yeah, you know, there are a couple verses, Bible verses that I keep in my head. one of which is Romans 8:18, which is, for our present sufferings aren't worth comparing to the glory that will be revealed. And I really like that verse. It's always been my favorite verse, but this past year, again, it's remained so relevant. Our present sufferings in regards to the backlash, in regards to the arrows that I take, in regards to my busy schedules where I don't get to see my husband that much, you know, all of the sufferings that I've endured really throughout all of this. It's so worth it when you compare it to the glory and the success and really just the understanding of what the fight is about and who you're helping and why you're helping. And so that's been something that I live by, I constantly think about. So those are really the two verses I constantly think about.
That's amazing. And your hope is honestly inspirational. Finally, Riley, I just want to make sure everybody knows, like, what's next for you? Where can they find you? How can they support you?
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter. It's Riley_Gaines_. I always try and post breaking stories, highlighting how politicians are responding, whether it's good, bad, just so people don't believe the narrative that it's a non-issue and that it's not happening, and all of those silly things that are so far from the truth. That's how people can find me.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Riley. I appreciate all your time. Honestly, I can't believe that we were able to get you on, and just thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you like this interview, share it with everybody. Riley is amazing. Don't forget to follow her on Twitter. Everybody, that was my interview with Riley Gaines. If you missed any of it and you want to find more, do not worry. I will post that link on Cities 92.9's website after I'm done with my show today. Obviously, I'm still going until 5 o'clock today. But Riley is one of the most articulate people I have ever met. And obviously, she's been in the media spotlight now for just about a year. And I'm really, really thankful that she was able to talk with me and obviously all my viewers on YouTube and everything, but also just our humble studio here in Bloomington Normal, Illinois, and Central Illinois. Because like she said, there are people that are going through comparable situations, a YMCA in Illinois. And I don't have all the details yet, just what Riley said to me, but I'm going to learn more, and we're going to break more of that story here on Cities 92.9. But a YMCA that allows a biological man to change in the same room as 14-year-old girls who are on a swim team. It's insane. It is insane. We are going to cover all that and more on Cities 92.9. We are getting up next to a break. But again, if you are interested in watching that full interview on my YouTube channel, Speechless with Kev Phares, last name Phares. I know, sounds like Ferris Bueller, but spelled radically different. Phares is that. You guys can tune in right now, still live. We got more to talk about. I'm going to talk about a little bit more about college women's sports. There's an interesting news story that came out this last week of some college softball players that had a really interesting take on how they stay hopeful and joyous in their sport. And we're going to cover that, everybody, and a lot more. The Trump indictment as well in the last 40-ish minutes of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Kev Phares, and this is Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Okay, guys, we are still live here, obviously, on all the other platforms. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you really like that. So she's not an Olympic athlete, was never an Olympian. She was NCAA champion, though. So not really an Olympian, but still an amazing swimmer and had to go up against a biological male. So thank you very much, Mike, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And you're always a great supporter, great family friend. Thank you so much, Mike. Let's get into some of these other comments here. Yes. So very interesting was her talking about her support of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Definitely a very interesting part. And so I see some people here. Pam says, I like Trump and would like DeSantis as VP, then DeSantis runs. I get that. And I've heard that from a lot of people. I don't think that Trump is priming any kind of, he's been attacking DeSantis on too harsh of different ways, like calling him a rhino and pushing this narrative that he's a rhino of some kind, which is, I don't think is true in any way. There's been very little evidence presented to me that would prove that true. But I don't see DeSantis running as his VP. So it's going to be a very interesting race. And that's why I said in the interview it was very controversial. But there were some other things about that in here too. I'd vote for a pastrami sandwich over. I got to find that comment so I can bring it up on stream. I'm trying to find that one. There we go. Jim Adams. I'd vote for a pastrami sandwich over Biden at this point. Yeah, that's kind of like the frame of mind I'm getting into. Like, yes, I've been clear. DeSantis is kind of my guy. That's the one in the primary that I'm going for, but I just don't want Biden anymore. And so whoever wins the primary, that's who I'm throwing my support behind. Be really hard if Nikki Haley somehow came out. That'd be harder for me, but I still think she'd be better than Biden. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Anybody, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you missed any of that interview, it is on my YouTube channel now, streaming now. You can watch all of it in its entirety, uninterrupted. I'd really appreciate that. Share it, like, subscribe, and share it. If you want to share it to a Facebook page, anything like that, I'd really appreciate that as well. It's a wonderful, you guys, I mean, many of you saw it. It's a wonderful interview. And she is very, very well spoken in all of the issues that pertain to her. So please, please, please share that. It would mean a lot to me, but it would also mean a lot to Riley, obviously, because she wants to get her messages out there. And I'm sure she has way different ways of getting her messages out there for much larger people than myself. But I know for a fact I hit on some things in that interview that she hasn't hit on in any other. So Andrea, thank you so much for tuning in. You're the best. I know I'm scrolling kind of far back for that, but in the next, I got another big story. I think it's a big story. I really like it. I'm going to pull it up here. Get it all set up. Thank you guys for tuning in. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. You guys are the best. I really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, and share the interview, this live stream, whatever. Tell your friends, your family, everything like that. Be very much appreciated. Thank you guys. Okay, and we're coming back here. And we are back with Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 22-year-old college student that is not an expert in anything technically, but still here talking to you about the news of the week and things that are just interesting to our community, to our society, to our country from a conservative perspective. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have missed any of the show, I did have a full-length, long 35-plus minute interview with Riley Gaines, the former NCAA swimmer, 12 times All-American swimmer, that tied with Leah Thomas in the 200-yard freestyle back at the NCAA championships in 2022. Amazingly articulate girl, activist now against biological men competing in women's sports. Yes, it's an argument I never thought we'd be having, but alas, here we are. We are still having it. Men are trying to play in women's sports. And I know that there's a lot of stories like this, right? There's a lot of stories like this that can kind of bring you down. The loudest voices in the room are screaming transphobe if you try to say that men shouldn't be in women's sports. And hearing all of this and a lot of the negativity that comes out, especially out of my generation, can bog us down, make us feel a sense of hopelessness. But I want you to know that for every person that pushes that kind of crap, everybody my age and even the others that are pushing the leftist, far radical progressive ideology, there are people like me. Maybe not necessarily as loud, because we, like the title of the show is called Speechless, everybody, because people have a hard time speaking out when they're met with such hostility from the opposition. But there are people that push back against those lies, and they speak out in the contrast. And there were some college softball players that proved that this week and really showed strength and courage by pushing a faithful message. Oklahoma Sooners women's softball champs have words about their faith that every single American needs to hear. So they were, these softball championships for the NCAA from Oklahoma were on a panel after the game being asked about things that make them joyous and everything. You can hear all of it. I'm going to play this video for everybody. because it's just fascinating. We're going to pause it a little bit throughout the segment to talk more and more about what exactly these girls had to say. But here is that video.
Alex Scarborough with ESPN. For the players, I know you talked about keeping the joy of the game, but I'm curious, it's a long season, right? And you guys have had the target on your back the entire time, the win streak being number one. How do you handle the unique pressure that comes with that? How do you keep the joy for so long when anxiety seems like a thing that could very easily set in?
Well, the only way that you can have a joy that doesn't fade away is from the Lord.
Absolutely.
And any other type of joy is actually happiness that comes from circumstances and outcomes. I think Coach has said this before, but joy from the Lord is really the only thing that can keep you motivated, just in a good mindset, no matter the outcomes. Thankfully, we've had a lot of success this year, but if it was the other way around, joy from the Lord is the only thing that can keep you embracing those memories, moments, friendships, and all of that. So that's really the only answer to that, because there's no other way that softball can bring you that, because of how much failure comes in it and just how much of a roller coaster the game can be.
Everything, all of the joy that we have based on moments and experiences and stuff like that are all temporary. And this college softball player, pun intended, hit it out of the park with that answer. But it's not just her. It's not just her. The entire team. Listen to her next teammate answering the same question.
1000% agree with Grace Lyons. I went through that my freshman year. I was so happy to win the college. I've talked about this before, but I was just so happy that we won the College World Series, but I didn't feel joy. I didn't know what to do the next day. I didn't know what to do for that following week. I didn't feel filled, and I had to find Christ in that. And I think that is what makes our team so strong, is that we're not afraid to lose, because if it's not the end of the world if we do lose. Yes, obviously we've worked our butts off to be here and we want to win, but it's not the end of the world because our life is in Christ, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Our life is in Christ, and that's all that matters. Two of these teammates pushing a God-filled message that say, my time on the field, man, I give it all out there. But what really matters is the eternal happiness I can get from the Lord. And that's two. Now listen to the third.
I think a huge thing that we've really just latched onto is eyes up. And you guys see us doing this and pointing up, but we're really like fixing our eyes on Christ. And that's something where, like they were saying, you can't find a fulfillment in an outcome, whether it's good or bad. And I think that's why we're so steady in what we do, and our love for each other and our love for the game, because we know this game is giving us the opportunity to glorify God. Mm-hmm. And I just think once we figured that out and that was our purpose and everyone was all in with that, it's really changed so much for us. And I mean, I know myself, I've seen so much of a growth in myself with once I turned to Jesus and I realized how he had changed my outlook on life, not just softball, but understanding how much I have to live for, and that's living to exemplify the kingdom. And I think that brings so much freedom. And I'm sure everyone's story is similar, but we all have those great testimonies that have really like shown how awesome it is to play for something bigger. And I think that's just what brings me so much joy. And no matter the outcome, whether we get a trophy in the end or not, this isn't our home. And I think that's what's amazing about it, is we have so much more. We have an eternity of joy with our Father, and I'm so excited about that. And yes, I live in the moment, but I know this isn't my home. And no matter what, my sisters in Christ will be there with me in the end when we're with our King. So,
oh my God. Oh my God. These are amazing messages being pushed from college students, from college athletes. Can you believe it? College athletes. So here's the thing. You want to know, you want to know where this came from? Likely, this was instilled to them by not only their families growing up. I guarantee you had a little bit to do that, but their coach. Their coach. And so that last teammate right there said, it's not about a trophy. It's about glorifying God. It's about, you want to know why this team is winning? Is because they have a strong, strong foundation. And so take it out of just this, compare it to the rest of my generation. This girl says, I don't care about a trophy. The majority of my generation growing up, all they cared about was a trophy. All you had to do was exist and you got a trophy. Participation trophies were a big thing early on in my life. It's all about all you got to do is be there. You got to show up and put in minimal effort and you get a trophy. This girl doesn't care about that. You want to know how you win in the world, everybody? You set up yourself with a strong foundation. And a foundation in Christ is the strongest you can. I believe there's a reference. I think it's from the Bible, and I don't know all of it. Look, I'm a Catholic, and I'm a Catholic because I'm not the strongest. I'm not the smartest, and I know that I need God. I need someone to lean on, and I need the strongest person. And I say person, I need the strongest entity. I need God to lean on. And so, build a foundation on land, not on the sand. I'll find the exact proverb, whatever it is, but don't build a house on the sand. Building a house on land, on rocks, is going to be a much stronger foundation. And building that foundation through Christ breeds winners. And that's seen through these Oklahoma softball players that won the national title. And it's because they had a coach. Doesn't necessarily need to be a coach in everybody's life, a coach, a parent, a pastor, a community member that helped them realize that that's how success is bred and success is made. Everybody, in the last half hour of the show, I am going to talk about the Trump indictment. I know I've been covering a lot of things about social issues, but I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. Check me out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Rumble, Twitter, everywhere. Thank you so much, and we'll be back with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Okie dokie, everybody. I hope you guys liked that story. That was one that I was so impressed by. I was so impressed by that story. And like I said, it inspires me, and it puts, I'm hoping that it gave you guys some hope as well. But I've been covering a lot of social issues, for the last few weeks. I've been covering a lot of social issues. Haven't gotten super into the politics of things. But that's a lot of it just because it's Pride Month, It's Pride Month. So have to cover all those things with pride. But we're going to cover in the next segment the Trump indictment. And it'll probably cover a lot of it because we got more and more and more to cover consistently. So, and then hopefully we'll be able to have one more story I'd like to get to before the end. And then I'll probably have to do some videos to cover all my cut for time stuff because I had so much today. And that Gaines interview, though, came before all of it because it was so important. So thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I'll go and look through some of our different comments and stuff that we got going on here soon. Okay, refreshing to hear. Absolutely. It's amazing. This is kind of what I'm going to hit on a little bit. Mo, you're getting it. You're getting it. That's kind of what I'm going to hit on it. Riley Gaines is awesome. I'm so happy she's speaking out. She does amazing work. Everybody, don't forget. Tia, I haven't seen you in here before, but welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, everybody, the channel. And also make sure you hit that notification bell, right? Hit that notification bell. I don't know if you guys actually get notifications about my stuff. Maybe sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Try to hit it to all. And let me know if you guys aren't getting notifications for it, because that's likely ScrewTube. ScrewTube trying to make sure that conservative voices can't be heard. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, everybody, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Rumble, anywhere. I really do appreciate your guys' support and interacting. I read your guys' comments. I bring them, a lot of them up on screen. And want to make sure that I'm being very inclusive of all opinions. I share my opinion. This is my opinion. If you don't like what I have to say, I don't really care, first off. Second, you don't have to watch my show. Third, if you want to watch my show because I'm a dissenting opinion, that's perfectly fine too. But I recommend everybody, this is an opinion show. I share my opinion. I'm not a full-blown journalist. There are some things that I do that are journalists like, but I'm an opinion show. I like the difference between me and Washington Post, besides viewership, obviously they get a lot more viewership, is the fact that I'm honest that I have an agenda, I have a narrative, and I have a belief system, and I share my opinion. And I'll tell you that any day of the week. Washington Post won't tell you. They're just going to push their opinion, and they're going to pretend like they're real journalists. But if you don't, if you want another opinion, there's like Pod Save America. There's other podcasts and stuff. The Young Turks. Go watch those if you want a differing opinion. If you want something that's going to be different than me. Got a little bit more time here before we come back. I did take that last segment a little bit long, so the other ones are going to be cut a little bit short. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and follow. I really appreciate that. You guys ever want to reach out to the show, have a story that you might think, send me a link. If it's a Twitter video, anything like that, something you think that might fit into this, a lot of the things I've been talking about, feel free to hit me up at speechlesskp@gmail.com. That's my email that you can get all that kind of stuff from. So definitely do that. We'll be right back with the radio show. That's what I do right now. Is I live stream my radio show. I used to do, and I might go back and keep doing them, but I used to do midweek streams too. I might still do those. It's been really, really hectic. I actually took, for anybody who's watching, I took the LSAT last Friday. I plan on going to law school. That's my plan right now. So I took it last Friday, hoping I did well on that. But I don't find out my score for a little while. But I took the LSAT, and so that took up studying for that and getting ready for that took up a lot of my time. So I was prepping for that. And so that's why I haven't been doing some live streams throughout the week. There's a lot of life events too, life gets in the way, And so I keep trying to bring out more and more content. It seems like you guys are liking a lot of the stuff I put out. And so, if you have any, like I said, shoot me an email, speechlesskp@gmail.com. If you got any notes, questions, comments, concerns, stories, anything, I'd love to hear about it. And also make sure you go follow Riley Gaines on Twitter at Riley_Gaines, GAINES _ You can just search Riley Gaines 2 on Twitter. Follow her and retweet her stuff, like her stuff. She's amazing. Like literally, I've met a lot of people. I've met conservatives and liberals that have great followings and are very, very active. There's some, and I'll be honest, I'm not going to name names. But there's some a little stuck up. They've let like fame and like being in the national spotlight kind of get to their head a little bit. Riley is not one of those people at all. Not even close. She's not even close. She's not in any way big-headed, or she's very down to earth person. So definitely support her. We're going to come back here with the Trump indictment in this next segment. And we're starting off here now. Hey, and welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'm your host, Kev Phares. And gosh, we've had so much we've been covering today. In the first hour of the show, I had an interview that it was pre-recorded, but I had talked with Riley Gaines, the former NCAA championship swimmer, who faced off against Leah Thomas, the biological male William Thomas, that had swam against women in the NCAA championships in 2022, made headlines doing that. But I talked with her about a lot of different things. And if you want to go catch that, I will post the exact link to our Facebook page, Cities 92.9. But I will also, but you can also just go search it up. Speechless with Kev Phares on YouTube. The whole full unabridged, unedited video is right there for you guys to see of me talking with her. But we're going to move on to some other things now. Probably one of the biggest stories in the last week is Trump, former President Trump, was federally indicted, and his entire indictment was unsealed, and it was released that he was charged on 37 different counts, including many of them being under the Espionage Act. Yes, they think Trump is a spy. They think he's a treasonous spy. It's hilarious. They think he's a treasonous spy. And most of their evidence makes it look really bad, but for the most part, it seems like out of context crap and hyperbolized. But that's what an indictment does. Exactly. That's what an indictment does, is it pushes the narrative as if somebody is guilty. Because we have a justice system right now for a lot of it, especially in the political realm, where you're guilty until proven innocent, which is the opposite of what we're supposed to be. You're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. But let's keep going with this. So out of the Daily Wire, the document The indictment charges Trump on 37 counts, with 31 of those being the willful retention of national defense information. Other counts include conspiracy to obstruct justice, corruptly concealing documents or records, and making false statements. The indictment alleged that Trump improperly removed classified records from the White House in January 2021. These classified documents contain sensitive information, quote, regarding defense and weapons capabilities of both the United States and foreign countries, United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attack, and plans for possible retaliation in response to a foreign attack. The former president showed sensitive documents to others on 2 occasions. According to the indictment, in July 2021, Trump described a, quote, plan of attack prepared by the Defense Department. Trump showed the plan, quote, during an audio recorded meeting with a writer, a publisher, and 2 members of his staff, none of whom possessed a security clearance. As president, he said, I could have declassified it. According to the indictment, now I can't, but this is still a secret. In another indictment in August or September 2021, Trump showed a representative for his political action committee a, quote, classified map related to military operation. He told the representative that he should not be showing the map according to the indictment. Okay, so pause on all that. First thing to note, like I said earlier, is indictments are made to make someone look as guilty as possible. So if you're hearing any of this and thinking, hey, that might actually sound kind of bad, calm yourself. It's because they are trying to make him look as guilty as possible through the indictment. They have to show and cherry pick all their information to make it look like, oh my gosh, he must be the worst flipping person alive. But in reality, what's happening is we have a weaponized Department of Justice and FBI that do exactly what the corrupt news media do. They take quotes and situations out of context and show you a fraction of the real story. And that's what this likely a trial and everything will come out. But a big question I had was, if Trump is actually found guilty on all counts and he's the worst person alive, everything, which is highly unlikely. I have to say highly unlikely because, obviously there is the very, 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 very small chance that it could happen, but highly unlikely. Trump could face up to 400 years in prison if convicted on all federal charges. Yes, according to Breitbart, former President Donald Trump could be sentenced to 400 years in prison if he is convicted on all charges, and the maximum sentences are imposed consecutively through a likelier penalty, though a likelier penalty would be 5 to 20 years. In the same case, though, this was something that was interesting, and a lot of people aren't hearing about this, but you might have. In the same case, Waltine Nauta is listed as a co-defendant, and he faces up to 90 years. So who is this guy? The former President Trump at the top is defendant, but then co-defendant Waltine Nauta. So who is this guy? According to the New York Post, he is Trump's veteran co-defendant in this case. Former President Donald Trump's co-defendant in a just unsealed federal indictment was an active duty Navy sailor. When prosecutors say he moved highly classified national security documents to Mar-a-Lago at the 45th president's request. The Post has learned. So he was originally a Navy cook. This is a guy who served our country in the Navy for more than a decade when he was tapped in 2012 to work at the White House Presidential Food Service Command, according to his service record. He began his Navy service in 2001, completing boot camp just weeks after the 9/11 terror attacks. He went on to serve at Navy bases in California and Georgia. He worked as Trump's personal assistant. As president, Trump had the authority to use military members assigned to Nauta's position as he saw fit, though Nauta was technically a senior chef or chief culinary specialist at the White House. According to his record, the indictment lists him as a White House valet during Trump's administration. And then he was active duty when Trump moved out. Nauta retired as a senior chief petty officer, the second highest rank enlisted Navy members can hold, in 2021. Meaning he was on active duty when Trump first had the boxes of classified documents when he moved to Florida. None of Nauta's charges are related to his time in the military, though he allegedly helped pack, quote, items, including some of Trump's boxes, along with other White House staff in January 2021. Nauta also helped move boxes temporarily stashed in Mar-a-Lago's white and gold ballroom to the club's business owner. So he knew Trump had secret documents. In the indictment, it's listed that his charges are related to his later actions. He had known since December 2021 that Trump had sensitive documents. On that day, he found several of Trump's boxes fallen and their contents spilled to the floor of a storage room, and texted to different another Trump employee that there was confidential stuff there. So he hid classified documents subpoenaed by a grand jury. A grand jury subpoenaed Trump's office in 2022 for all documents with classified markings kept by the former president. In the following weeks, Nauta allegedly moved 64 boxes of documents from the storage room to other locations, despite knowing they were sought in court. In 2022, the attorney went on to Mar-a-Lago to search for documents and send the grand jury, locating just 38 left in the storage room. So then Trump, I'm going to get to the point of all of this. I will, promise, bear with me. But Trump responded to all this on Truth Social in response to Nauta's inclusion in the indictment. He said, I've just learned that the thugs from the Department of Injustice will be indicting a wonderful man, Walt Nauta, a member of the U.S. Navy who proudly served with me in the White House, retired as senior chief and then transitioned into private life as a personal aide, Trump wrote. He has done a fantastic job. They are trying to destroy his life, like the lives of so many others, hoping they will say bad things about Trump. He is strong, brave, and a great patriot. The FBI and DOJ are corrupt. True story. In response to his own indictment on Truth Social, he said, the corrupt Biden administration has informed my attorneys that I have been indicted, seemingly over the boxes hoax, even though Joe Biden has 1,850 boxes at the University of Delaware, additional boxes in Chinatown, D.C., with even more boxes at the University of Pennsylvania. The documents strewn all over his garage floor where he parks his Corvette, and which is, quote, secured only by a garage door that is paper thin and open much of the time. So here's what's the point of all of this, of the Trump indictment and everything that comes with it. Well, Trump hits on a little bit of it. And here, reminder, everybody, I am more of a DeSantis supporter in this election. But it's clear that this is political persecution at its finest. Here's the thing. So Trump says in here, what about Biden, the corrupt Biden administration and all of his boxes? Yes, Mike Pence had boxes in his house. Every former president, when it was found out that Trump had some at Mar-a-Lago, it was found out that every other president had these too. And so here's what has happened. Is usually the justice system says, okay, you're innocent until proven guilty. But in Trump's case, and in a lot of people surrounded by Trump, we saw this with Mike Flynn, Steve Bannon, forgetting the other guy, Roger Stone. You had people where they said, well, they need to be criminals. You had the DOJ that said they need to be criminals because it needs to fit our narrative. And so instead of having somebody who committed a crime, they found a crime, made up a crime for people. And that's what they're doing here with Trump. This is political persecution. Because even if Trump did all this, right? Here's the thing. No matter who you are, anyone around the country, if they wanted to find a crime that you did, you probably did. You know how many laws the United States has? A ton. And even if it's just speeding, everybody, if you're watching this or listening to this, you've likely committed a crime at some point. And so but the thing is that even if Trump, it is provable that other people have committed these exact same crimes or very comparable, including Joe Biden and Mike Pence. But instead, the only person getting indicted is Donald Trump. And this is also a federal indictment. Joe Biden claimed that he knew nothing of the New York indictment against former President Trump. He cannot claim the same for this one. This is stemming from the executive branch, from our federal government, from our federal justice system, and our Department of Justice, which is part of the executive branch. There's no way Joe Biden didn't know about this, and he is purposefully pushing to have his political opponent and political rival to be indicted and potentially sent to jail. Sound like anywhere to you? To me, it sounds like communist Russia and Joseph Stalin. Sounds like Nazi Germany. Look, I'm not going to try to say that we live in Nazi Germany or we live in communist Russia. I'm not trying to say that that's exactly what we are living in right now. It could be a billion times worse here. But can you believe that this is what's going on in our country? That we have somebody, we have a leader, we have a president who claimed to be the unifying president, who is now basically putting his political opponent in jail. And here's the truth. I really don't think Trump will ever spend a day in jail. I think this is political theater that is a distraction and trying to push a further narrative against Trump to try to make sure that he can't run in 2024. Even though he says he knows and he will continue running even if it was from a jail cell, which is highly unlikely. But I don't ever think he's going to spend a single day in jail. And this is simply Joe Biden and the Democratic Party trying to push a political opponent through all of this for trying to push him out of the race. So the Democrats' strategy for 2024, put Trump through the full ringer so that hopefully in their minds, he'll quit. But we know President Trump, and he doesn't quit. And if anything, it's doing the opposite thing. A lot of people I know that were maybe in between, not sure which candidate they were going to pick in 2024, are now fully on board with Trump because they see the political persecution that he's being put under. Everybody, we'll be back in the last segment with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. We'll be back for the last few minutes in the hour. Thank you. Okay, everybody, we are live here again. I hope you guys like that covered. I know I could go into that for a lot further too, but maybe I'll do a different video where I cover some of the same stuff. Thank you guys for interacting. Thank you for watching. You guys are awesome. I see some other people are watching the interview right now. Appreciate you going back and watching that. You could also watch the full unabridged interview on my YouTube channel, obviously. I'm going to be pushing that out a lot. I got other videos too right now doing really well. I have one about the Dodgers stuff from last week's live stream. Thank you guys if any of you guys like, subscribe, and share. I always appreciate that. Thank you guys. And I see I got some viewers too on Facebook and on Twitch. You guys are awesome. They would have done the same to any other Republican. You're right. But they're scared. You're right. They're scared of any conservative running for president right now. That's why a lot of people are going after DeSantis too. And that's why I say, guys, like, it's a problem. Like being only Trump is kind of a problem. Because like I had other people in the comment section say earlier, having Biden or Kamala or any Democrat really in office would be 10 times worse than whatever you think Ron DeSantis might be if you're an only Trumper. I don't really know many people that are only DeSantis people. I'm sure there's some out there. And I think those people are a problem too. I think anybody, if you say I'm only this candidate, I'm an ideology person. That's what I believe in. I believe in the conservative ideology. And I think Ron DeSantis has done even more than Trump to push a conservative ideology in Florida. Obviously not on a nationwide scale yet, but in Florida. And so that's why I really like him. But I support the ideas somebody has. And at the end of the day, Trump is still fairly conservative as well. And that's what's important to me, is the ideas you are going to push and the policy you are going to push in office. And so we need to rally behind somebody after the primary. And so if you're only Trump, if you're only DeSantis, if you're only Mike Pence, if you're only any single candidate, try to open your mind to the bigger picture a little bit more. I encourage you. Please. Okay, I'm going to get ready. I got one more story I think it's really, this last story, more lighthearted. I think it's really funny. So we're going to do this. Getting it all ready here for everybody so we can all watch this, because I think this is just hilarious. And we'll be back here in 2-ish minutes, I'd say. A little less than that. Hope you guys are having a wonderful end of your weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. It's just great to be supported. I've been speaking out. I mean, I used to, before I was streaming and everything like that, I used to speak out doing, I did like different Republican events I would go to and give speeches at those. And I started my Turning Point USA chapter at my college. And I've always been kind of an activist. And obviously I've had a lot of local support. But it's interesting. And I had people for a long time telling me, it was like, oh, you should try like YouTube or stuff like that. And social media isn't my thing. I'm not a big social media person. I don't love social media, but I got messages, and the way I see it is that there's not everybody apparently hears these messages. And so any way that we can get these out to people is just super important. And that's what I love about Cities 92.9 is they support it. It's a great day to be alive. That is true. That's a great song. Travis Tritt. Got a rice cooking in the microwave. Yep. It's a great day to be alive. I know the sun's still shining. I'm gonna get a copyright violation now. I just saw people left as soon as I started singing. I'm sorry. I'll stop. But yes, we're almost at the next segment, final segment of the show. And you guys always like, subscribe, share, please, please, please. I know I say it all the time, but if you're just tuning in, like, subscribe, and share. I really appreciate it on all platforms. You guys are awesome. We're about to come back here. And we are back with Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I got to get right. We're heading into the end of this show here, so I got to get right into my last story. But if you missed my interview with Riley Gaines, which I played for the first hour of the show, please go check out my YouTube. You can also look on Cities Facebook. I'll post it there after I'm done tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. But here is this story. Liberal TikToker goes viral after complaining that the only masculine and chivalrous men she can find are conservative. Oh, really? The only masculine and chivalrous men you can find are conservative. So let's watch this. We're going to watch this together. I think this is hilarious. And we're going to listen to it on the radio, obviously. But this girl complains, this liberal girl, self-described, complains that she can only find chivalrous men that are conservative. So let's watch this.
Do you want to know one of the saddest realizations I recently had? Was that as a liberal woman, it is really hard to find a man who is willing to play the more traditional masculine role in the relationship in today's day and age, who is not a conservative. A man who wants to pay on the first date, who wants to open your door, who has that want and desire to take care of you and to provide, who is not a conservative. And obviously, as a liberal woman, I do want to be respected for my independence. And I do want to have my own autonomy in the relationship and not be confined or conform to the traditional female homemaker, childbearing role. And most of the men that I've dated who do have that more natural provider masculinity about them are normally conservative. So I don't really know what to do because I don't want to compromise my morals and values just to find a man. But am I asking to have my cake and eat it too?
Absolutely, you're asking to have your cake and eat it too, woman, because here's the thing. So she makes a lot of assumptions in that video that are just blatantly false too, but you're only going to find a more traditional man in the political ideology that values tradition. Progressivism and liberalism, as it stands today, neoliberalism, pushes an ideology that exalts progress at all costs, at cost of tradition, and if anything, scolds tradition. Not to mention the fact that the majority of progressive and liberal men don't really value women in the same way that a conservative man does, because a liberal man believes that womanhood is interchangeable, that a man can become a woman and a woman can become a man. Now I want to get to some of the assumptions that were made in this video. So she said, well, she doesn't want to be confined to the idea of being a traditional housewife. I don't want a traditional housewife. I'm a conservative man. I want a woman who is ambitious, outspoken, intelligent. I don't know where they get this idea. It's the propaganda, everybody. It's the propaganda that the liberals push, that as a conservative man, I'm somehow quote unquote a sexist that believes women should just be in the house and be a homemaker. No, I believe that women are better suited to take care of children. But my mom worked 40 hours a week as a teacher. Was a dang good teacher too, and still took care of me and my two sisters. My dad worked in the city. You can have two parents that work and be a conservative family, and I don't know where this idea in her head comes from that you can't. But conservative men, the reason why you're not finding liberal men that are strong and have traditional masculinity, is because they don't exist, really. They don't. And they don't respect women and the idea and sanctity of womanhood. So tough luck, hon. Figure it out. I think this is hilarious. This is a hilarious story. Everybody, thank you guys so much for tuning into Speechless. We'll be back next week with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal from 3 to 5. And until then, God bless you and God bless America. That's why you couldn't hear me. Sorry, I turned off my own mic. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will be back next week with more Speechless. Thank you guys for tuning in. I see some amazing. I scared your cat. I'm sorry. But we will be back next week with more Speechless on Cities 92.9 and on YouTube and everything. In the meantime, make sure you go like, subscribe, watch that Riley Gaines interview. Even if you already watched it, it'd probably be good to watch it in its entirety. I say that because it gives me some watch time too on my YouTube channel and views. But I really appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you so much. Do not forget to like, subscribe, share, and watch any of my other videos. I'll probably be coming out with some new video content that was cut for time in today's show. And I will see you guys next week, if not sooner. God bless you and God bless America. Bye-bye.